Hello and welcome to another video. In today's episode we are going to be talking about systemd and how to automate tasks using systemd units and systemd timers. So systemd is kind of the most often used init system and also like service management system in Linux distributions, which can start up all these processes that you need to run on your computer on the boot up, and it also manages those kind of applications or like system tools that are running in the background all the time. Also handles some authentication stuff and also handles your system journal. It logs all these kind of different applications that are running, and if there is a problem, the systemd journal will contain all those information. So in the last episode I was talking about my backup script, and this video I will show you how I finally managed to automate my backup process, because previously what I did was just simply run these backups manually whenever I felt like it, but I think it's a better idea to run the backup scripts automatically. So for that we will take a look at my system, but first I think it's a good idea to check out the Arch Wiki. So first you can read the systemd article on the Arch Wiki. It will have some information on how to handle unit files. So you can put unit files in this etc/systemd/system directory if you have to prepare some for your own system. So it is system administrator tools that are there. So basically, if you have some kind of custom script that you want to run on your computer, no matter who is sitting in front of it, this is where you will put, and this is the directory in the usr/lib/systemd/system where the installed packages will put their unit files. So for example, if I go to my terminal emulator here and and I will list the files in /usr/lib/systemd/system. You can see there are all these service files that have been brought to my computer through the packages that I installed. And if I list in the etc/systemd/system, you can see that here there are like these two service files, the nmbckp service and timer that I made for my backup script. So my backup script, if you didn't watch that long video about it, works like if you run it, it will check like are you running it as root or are you running it as a user, and if you're running it, or at least will check for some kind of configuration files, and it will also check configuration files for the user who is running the script. So if it is not run as a root, so if you don't run it with sudo, it will check your configuration files in your home directory, and so this way I can separate my backup for my user files and for the system files. And so in systemd, if I put those unit files in this directory, those will be run as root and will be ran even though so it doesn't matter who boots up my computer, who logs in. But if I want, I can use systemd user files to run scripts in my user's name, and for that I can put things like here in this .config/systemd/user, because these are like your user stuff, and so some packages will install stuff in your home directory, so you should not mix those things that are generated by outside software in your home directory with things that you put there. And So you can use systemd with this --user switch, which will basically let you handle things that are only valid for your user. And for example, in syncthing, so syncthing does not put their unit file there, but I have to make, so in case of the syncthing, I have to make this service manually so I can run syncthing at the boot up. So how it works is basically you can write very simple, where was it? There is like a simple example here for a service file. You give a unit name, you give an executable, and you will give like a target. So this means that before this default target is reached, this service, the daemon should be started. So if I let's check out my .config/systemd/user/syncthing.service, for example. In this service, we got a unit description, we have a documentation there. This is the exec start, is the binary and all the parameters that are given to this binary to run. And so there are this kind of other parameters here, like so the syncthing is running in the background all the time because it is synchronizing files between computers. So it runs, and if it sees that you change the file that it is observing, then it will push that change to another computer, and if it gets like a notification from another computer that a file have changed, it will bring that changed file to your computer, and if this program crashes, then systemd will restart it automatically. There are also some other things here, and it's also run when you boot up your computer and log in. So this is a default target. So for just to run something in the beginning, so when you log in, then this is much simpler. The only things that you actually need are these 6 lines basically. So unit description, you have an exec start, which is what you have to do here is that systemd will not be able to resolve your home directory by itself, so you cannot just put in a tilde character here. You have to actually type out the whole real path to these executable files, and it's also wanted by the default target. So now that if you have made this file, you can check in systemctl-user. So even if you are not system administrator, you can do this. And let me hide my camera here. So if you check list unit files, then it would list all the available unit files, which is a lot, but you only want to see this --user, systemctl-user list unit files, and nmbckp.service will be what I want to take a look. And you can see that the state here is disabled. So we can enable this service file by systemctl-user enable and nmbckp.service. So you just type in your service file, and this will enable it. What will happen is that there will be a symlink created, and if you check back your list unit files, then you can see it is in the enabled status, but it won't be running. So the thing is with systemd is that once you enable something, that doesn't mean it's going to be running. It means that it is now put in that kind of queue, so when the system will boot up next time, it will run it. You can use the systemctl start command to run this service, and well, if you do that, it will automatically start this service. So why I'm not doing this is the reason is because if I just do this, it will run my service file. So let me actually I want to systemctl-user, and this, okay, let's systemctl-user disable this service. So now if I list, it is disabled. So I don't want this service to run at boot up, because what would happen is in that case is that sync thing is also, as I showed you, sync thing is also, so I can show you that sync thing is activated. For example, sync thing.service is enabled. It has been enabled. It is running already on my computer, but it has been enabled before I rebooted. So what will happen is that sync thing will run, and maybe there is another computer turned on at the moment when I turn on this computer, and that other computer have some files that have been changed, and the sync thing starts to pull in those changed files, and I don't want my backup routine to just start right away before this kind of syncing has happened, because that would just screw up my backup process, and I want it to have like a 15-minute waiting time, and also I want it to run often. So if my computer is running for a long time, I want the backup routine to periodically run. So if you have not seen my backup script, then let's like a very important or a very interesting part of that is that I have kind of a, how can I go to the beginning? Okay, so I have built in a check in this script, and that will, what it will do is it will check if there has been a new backup made. So it won't back up the system, or it won't back up the files if it finds a backup that have been created in the last 24 hours. Because I don't want that, so like once a day is more than enough for my backups. So if there has been a backup, it will just write out this message that a backup have been performed in the last 24 hours, and it will exit. So what I want is maybe when I boot up my system and systemctl or the systemd would run my script, my script would find that there have been a backup made in the last 24 hours, maybe maybe 23 hours ago, and the script runs, it finds that there is a backup, so it doesn't do the backup, and then it's just done. It doesn't do anything anymore. So maybe 1 hour passes, and then it should be, like the last backup was more than 24 hours ago now, so maybe a new backup should be run. So I want systemd to run this script maybe once every 2 hours, and so to do that I have to use a systemd timer. And if we go to the systemd timers page in the Arch Wiki, we can see that using the timer units we can do 2 times of the timers. So we can use like real-time timers in which we can tell that I want this service file, or I want this daemon, or want this script to run maybe every Wednesday at 2 p.m. or I want it to run weekdays at 2 p.m. and weekends on 10 a.m. or something like that. I can use monotonic timers, which will basically run periodically, or will just based on when this script last ran. So if this script last ran, maybe I want it to run every 2 hours, so it will check like it has run now, and so I will schedule the next running 2 hours later, and then it's run that time, so they will schedule it 2 hours later again. And we can also use this kind of monotonic timer to just basically delay the running of a script. So we can say that after the system is booted and has been booted for like 1 hour, then I want this script to run, or just an active sec. It will, when systemd reads this timer file, so it will have like this timer files, it reads the timer file and it will start the clock from that. Because if you encounter the on-boot sec, then it will just, maybe your system boot up and then, I don't know, like 10 seconds have passed. When systemd gets to this timer file, it will say, oh, I have to run it after 15 seconds after boot, for example. It will see, okay, the boot started 10 seconds ago, and so I have 5 more seconds before running it. If it's encountering the on-active sec, then it will get like, okay, I just read this timer file, so I will run the script 15 seconds later. And so how to do that? We can, there is the systemd .timer manual where you can see how there's a kind of description for these things. And there is also a systemd manual which is containing what kind of time units we can use to define these things. There are some examples listed here. So the timer units should look like this. According to the Arch-Wiki, it's also very simple. So in my timer unit, if we take a look, so I want .config systemd/user and nmbckp.timer. I just made this very simple timer. So the wanted by here will be timers.target. I gave it a description, it's kind of long anyways, and there I gave it a timer. So once this timer unit has been read by systemd, because this is a user script, so this will be run when I log in. So it will run after 15 minutes after my login, and after that this script will run every 2 hours. So we can do that, and we can check using systemctl-user list-timers. List-timers will tell us that no timers have been activated. So of course there are some default timers in our system when we are, so which is run by root. So these are, because I did not add the --user here, these are all the timers that are run on our system, like log rotate, mandb, shadow, systemd, temp files clean, stuff like that. It tells us when is it gonna run next, how much time have left for that, and when did it run last, and how much time passed since it last ran. So this kind of information we can get from systemd, and we can activate this timer in the same way that systemctl-user, and we can activate the timer by enable, just nmbckp.timer. And now if I check systemctl-user list timers, what? Is it inactive? Oh, maybe it's inactive because so --all, I have to add --all, and you can see that now this next, there is no next running, there is no no time left, there has been no last time it ran, there is no time passed since last running for the nmbckp timer, because we just, so if I did this, it would, what it would do is basically run the, or activate, this timer would only start, so this timer has been activated, but the timer would only start after I boot up my system. So what I have to do is not just enable, but also start the nmbckp timer. And now if I list my timers, we can see that it has been activated and it will be running 14 minutes later. So why is it 14 minutes later? Because if we go back to my file here, we can see that on activate sec, so the timer has been activated, so now 15 minutes have to be passed, and then once this unit have run, then, so the unit file, which is the nmbckp.service, then it will, once that unit file have been run, then we will have 2 hours and it will run again. And so what you might have been asking is, but how does this timer know what is the unit file? So here we can see that this timer will activate this service, but how does it know? We did not specify it anywhere in the file. And well, basically just the same, if you give like the same name, so before the extension you have foo.service, then the foo.timer will automatically call foo.service, so you don't need to worry about that. And actually it is possible to use a different named service somehow. Maybe it's not described in the Arch Wiki, but it is possible to do that if you really need to, but I think it's just much more easier for the user to use this kind of same naming scheme, because then you won't be that much confused. Systemd also capable of creating timers basically automatically for a service or even just for an executable. You can just run with systemd-run, and it will, when you give these kind of switches to this command, it will create the timer file automatically. But in my case I prefer to just write a timer file, because in that case I will be able to manually change things. So I can just look up the timer file if I don't remember how I set up things, and I can modify and reload them if I need to. So this is for my user, and so this way, which we just talked about, is the way to set up your systemd timers if you are just a regular user. But there is a way to set up things for the root user. So maybe if you are the system administrator on a computer, you can run this kind of custom script for the whole system, and for that we just talked about that you have to put the files in the /etc/systemd/system. And let me show you how I have /nmbckp.service here, which is basically the same that I had, but I just added this root here so I can easily differentiate between these from the logs. And I also have this timer unit file, and this is also the same. I just changed the description, and it will also be running the same way. So if you want to activate the service without any timer, what you can do is you can do sudo systemctl and activate, it's enable nmbckp.service. We'll do that, but I don't want to enable the service. I want the timer to be enabled. So the timer will run the timer will activate the service file, and the service file will run the script. So this is how you should think about it. And of course I also want to start this timer. So here you have to have the sudo privileges to do this, and then just omit the --user switch. And once you did that, we can systemctl list timers, and we can see that an nmbckp timer has been added to the list and will run 14 minutes later. So there are some kind of troubleshooting you can do with systemd, and so let's take a look whether our user timer have run. Okay, so we still have 9 minutes left until this service will first run, and after that we can check how can we find what happened to this. So we can check the journal actually, and the journal will tell us what kind of, so how was this successful, did our script run, what was the output of the script, and etc. So I will pause this recording now, and we will come back after 9 minutes to check what got into our journal from this timer. So it's time to check back on our timer, and we have 29 seconds left. What a bad timing. So what actually we can do here is we will use systemctl and systemctl status, and I need --user. So systemctl --user status nmbckp.service, and we can see that this service is now running because it has been started. We can let me hide my camera. So once I start, so systemd we can scroll, and what we can see is it's been loaded at just this time, started automatic backup, and so this is, you can remember maybe from my script that there was this echo command that it will just give this line that us if the backup have been performed already in this 24 hours, and this says it succeeded. And if I just give it again, it's inactive dead. So that time I was asking systemd like at the exact right moment. Now we can see it's already, so this already run its course and is now dead. So if we go back to our list timers here, we can see that the next run will be 1 hour and 58 minutes later. This was our last run 1 minute ago. And if we go to journal ctl, and I will just want it to reverse direction, we can see that in the system journal with journal ctl, so if you run journal ctl with -r, then it will present you the log in reverse order, so the newest entries will be first. And well, there is this line from us, so backup.sh has been run, and the nmbckp.service have succeeded running. And so of course the same will happen to our script, which is run as root. So if we check systemctl list timers without the user command, then we can see that the nmbckp.timer has 2 minutes and 33 seconds left until running, and then it will run. And when it runs, it will also appear in the journal. So let's wait that 2.5 minutes for that, and let's take a look before finishing this video. Okay, so now adequate time have passed, and we can see that it just ran 26 seconds ago. So now if I go back to my journal, I can use the systemctl as the status of the nmbckp.service, and remember, this one now is the service file or for the root process. So even though I have the same name for it, and maybe maybe you should not have the same name for it, but I use the same script, so I found it like, why shouldn't I use the same service for the process with root and the process with user? But anyways, when you take in a look at your journal ctl, then you will find now here that systemd says nmbckp service succeeded. And here it's also, so this is when it was run by user. So you can see that now what's going on here. So yeah, I want this. So this one, so this is the time when the automated backup ran and then its service succeeded, and this is also the running as root, and you can see here that it's like systemd1 and here is systemd 4h2 because I guess it relates to like when it's run as root, it's got this number 1 here, and when it's run as a user, it gets another number there. And that's how you automate things using systemd and systemd timers. Okay, so this was a journey, wasn't it? But now you can not just write your own scripts, but you can create these very simple systemd unit files like the timer and the service files, so that you can forget about it and you let your system run these scripts for you. And in the case of a backup, it's always a good idea to back up your system even if you forget about it. So that was today's video. I hope you found it useful. If you want to see more in-depth tutorials related to Arch Linux or Linux in general, or some opinions I might have about free and open source software and stuff like that, then you can always follow me or subscribe to the channel or whatever it's called on the platform you are watching this video. You can give a thumbs up or upvote or whatever if you enjoyed the contents, and of course leave a comment if you have any questions or you want to add to the conversation, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.